got to have go-to takedown, just like you said, right? And if you don't, if you're a counter guy and you're losing with 30 seconds to go, you're kind of SOL, right? So we got to have something, right? I love that you can wrestle in a million positions. I love Chittum, right? Like, I love your motor, your craziness, but like, what is your shot? And like, what's the shot with 30 seconds to go? You're getting the leg. And again, let's use David Carr, right? We all knew what was coming, right? With 15 to go, the whole world, Keegan knew, everyone knew what was coming.
Sure.
Like, what's your shot? What's your go-to, right? So that's the thing that we hardline maybe with them is like, we got to have something, okay? Now, once you've got that thing, we could develop and work on all sorts of, you know what I mean? Like, everyone's got different tools, right? But we have to make sure we've got that go-to, because if we don't, we're not really helping you much, right? Like, we got to give you something to go score with, right? And it doesn't have to be less 30 seconds. I don't want any of our guys wrestling that way, because the reality is I want you scoring in the first probably minute and a half, and then maybe scoring again in the next minute, and, you know, scoring that way. But as that wrestling action gets going, you picked a guy like MJ, guess what? You get up by 5 points, that's going to turn into a tech fall or pin really quick, because now that guy has to wrestle you, right? Now he has to have he's got to come to you, right? Well, now we're playing. Now we're playing where you want to be, right? So yeah, I mean, I don't know if I answered your question necessarily, other than we definitely hardline a go-to offense, and I don't care what it is. In our room, we say you got to have a go-to right and a go-to left, right? You got to have two, right? And then we go to, you know, your basic defense, and then getting off the bottom. And then on top of, then from there, we say, let's take your tools and let's mold them, right? Let's take your tools and let's mold them. So that's how you work with them differently, but they got to have a go-to, you know?
Is there one person in the room that changed the way that they wrestle even a little bit because of 3-point takedowns this past year?
No, I don't think there is. And it worked really well for us. Like I said, what our guys have bought into is scoring points, right? I would hope that you would never, in the last year and a half or two, go to an Iowa State duel and be like, oh, these guys are definitely trying to hold on with their one takedown and get a win. Like, that's what they're being coached to do. I would hope that we never see that, because if that happens, and it did in the past, you know, they're hearing it from us in the back. Like, that isn't okay. Like, continue to build your lead. There's a time and a place for that with 15 to go. When there's 3 minutes to go or 2 minutes to go, we keep building your lead, you know? So no, that was what we preach, and it just helped us more because we score points. So you're going to give us more points now for our scoring.
I like that. Right. More points equals more gooder. Yes, I agree. But there is that point where you do have to brick it up, right? Like, I think that any kid that I coached at a high level, the one thing that they struggled with, and I think I brought it up on this podcast before, but the kid Knox, right? He was one of mine when he was growing up, and I still have a lot of conversations with him. He went to the World Team Trial Finals last year in Vegas, and in the first match against Blaze, he was down by 1 and didn't start his sprint until, let's say, 30 seconds left. And against a kid like Blaze, that's just not enough time. Period. The end. It's like you got to put a full minute of firing off offense to kind of make up that ground. And then in the second match, he was up by 1 and he started playing defense about a minute left in the match, and that's far too long. So is that a common thing that you see from your athletes, that they're really unsure of when to start their sprint or when to be strategic about their offense?
Honestly, we don't use those words. We don't use your sprint.